Main tasks that we have is to inform states and to provide guidance to states, and we do that through our thematic reports. And so I presented one, as you said, to the Human Rights Council in this issue of deprivation of liberty because we have identified in the disability community that persons with disabilities are overrepresented in all places of deprivation of liberty. And that no matter the culture, no matter the size of the country, no matter the level of development of the country, the situation is always the same. There's a multiplicity of causes, and it's a very complicated phenomenon, but there are at the root causes like, of course, the stigma, discrimination, the lack of understanding about the rights of persons with disabilities and embracing the diversity that persons with disabilities bring. But of course, there are a lot of social factors, and including the lack of support to address the needs of persons with disabilities. And then literally I think that one of the key messages of my report is that the deprivation of liberty of persons with disabilities is not a default. Actually reflects the failure of states to develop responses for persons with disabilities. One of the main problems is that the only solution seems to be this systematic solution of whether an institution, whether a psychiatric hospital, or whether a prayer camp, instead of what could we do to make sure that the person can stay in the community, can participate in the community, and can be embraced. This is a very important discussion that we are having on an international level, because in the disability community, and since the adoption of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the standards have been changed. Now we have a higher standard of protection saying we have to do this in a human rights based way. We have to make sure that we do address the needs of persons with disabilities, but without violating their rights, right? And how do we do that? We don't want people with disabilities to suffer. We don't want people with disabilities that are in a crisis, for instance, because of a potential mental health situation, to be left alone or to be abandoned or to be in the streets or to hurt themselves or to hurt others. That we don't want. But the type of intervention we can discuss. What we need is interventions that could be, for instance, the open dialogue is one that goes and is an intervention at home where you deal with the situation that is causing the stress of the crisis at home. And there might be other cases in which you cannot have an intervention at home because the cause of the problem is at home, and you might need to disentangle that and take the person to another respite care settings or a midway home or a peer support group where you could make an intervention and support the person without forcing the person to enter into a hospital or to be submitted to any kind of treatment without their consent. Well, there are many interventions that are needed. We need to change the legislative frameworks that are allowing legally to deprive persons with disabilities of their liberty without any reason to do so. Something is, of course, the changes with regards to awareness and how we accept and understand diversity and not try to restrict the criminalization, the diverse behaviors in the world. So you need policy change as well to develop the support systems that are needed in strong participation and collaboration with persons with disabilities. How do we prevent and limit the use of or the responses that are only medical? Right? We fight in the disability community to say no longer persons with disabilities should be perceived as patients, right? We are, as anyone else, we might need health services, but this is the responses that we need to participate actively in our communities should be broader than that, and of course separated as much as possible from a merely medical response. And of course, we need to have very strong policies on deinstitutionalization. It's fundamental. I think that without independent monitoring, we are never going to learn about what is actually happening in those places of deprivation of liberty. And we have to be very, very open about it. We really have to call the things by their name and say, well, yeah, this is deprivation of liberty. And entities that are in charge of looking or monitoring the situation in places of deprivation of liberty should have the mandate of visiting places of deprivation of liberty of persons with disabilities. And when that start happening, okay, of course, the national prevention mechanisms are a great opportunity to include not only psychiatric hospitals, that many of them are increasingly doing that, but also other kind of social institutions, home care for children, nurseries, and the role of the monitoring mechanisms is crucial to bring light to the situation, but also, of course, to solve the situation. Hopefully, they could even provoke and promote the establishment of policies of deinstitutionalization that are needed in the vast majority of the countries. But luckily, and I want to be positive about this, I think that there is more and more awareness of the situation and that we need to make a change.